Looks like a couple of people were looking for the link 20 minutes ago.
Oh, in mom's.
Yeah, I just told them it's happening now.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. All the podcast people out there.
Okay, I think we're live.
So we told everyone we are talking about pricing today and raising rates for 2024, or just, as you raise rates, how do you raise rates? Um, all of those things. Good morning, Donna. I think we're just waiting for a few people to join, and then I'm pulling up this pricing template that we talked about. So for those that are joining today, we're sharing a pricing template from the course.
Yeah, I'm still struggling with quoting because none of mine just seems straightforward with the quoting calculator to know what I'm doing. Just had two more calls yesterday and I'm trying to put together quotes for them.
Yeah, absolutely. You can definitely post those in the group. We'll have a Q&A at the very end. We can go through what those quotes could look like too, for sure.
Okay, perfect.
Hey, good morning, Cheryl. Good morning, Debbie.
Good morning. I found you. Haha.
You found
Good
us.
morning.
We changed the time on everyone. I'm sorry. We are going to change this time going forward to this hour so that it doesn't compete with our co-working call anymore that we do in the paid group. So we are going to shift this just a little bit. Hopefully that still works. Let us know if it doesn't, and we can always continue to refine and make something work. Good morning, Crystal. Okay, so real quick, who has ever done a price increase? And was that
Me.
price increase successful? You have. How'd that go, Debbie?
We're fine. I told them you don't get the friends and family free 99 no more.
Good,
$3.99.
good. Yeah, no more, no free 99s. There are rare exceptions. Have I ever? I'm sure I've done some free 99 scope creeps on me, but yeah. So today we are talking about price increasing. It's beginning of the year. Crystal says not for her. So Crystal, did they leave because you price increased, or were they kind of on the fence, like, to begin with?
it's not a typical situation, I'm sure, but this person, they even told me to increase them like for months and I didn't. And I probably should have back when, their business was, probably making a little bit more money than they are now in this really, really hard month for them. But yeah, so I finally did because they should have been like $1,000 client and they were like a $300 client. And so I did, and then they were like, "Oh wow, I just can't afford that." And I only was gonna raise them $160, but I think it was just kind of like a one-time thing, but it does kind of scare me for raising prices in the future.
So I think there is definitely, like, it doesn't sound like you necessarily did anything wrong. Communication is typically the best way, like lots of communication around this is why, this is, and working with them. Donna says, no, but I have a client I want to increase by $50. She did just refer me to potentials. Donna, how long ago were those referrals? So like this month or?
Yeah, those are the two calls I just actually had yesterday. I've had this client, my main client, I've had her for a year now. I only charge her $75 a month because it is actually very basic and easy, but she just went into a brick and mortar and she's doing a lot more business. So there is a lot more transactions coming through, but it's still just Square, so it's kind of still easy for me. But I wanted to just at least get her up to the 100. But then I just got two people who are like, oh, Sarah just referred me to you. I was like, okay. So,
But I think you have to
no.
segment, the referrals from her services. And you can do that by giving them a gift card for, hey, thank you so much for this referral if they sign. But then just sending her a note, thank you so much for the referral, right? You can send her a card in the mail. But we're going to treat that separate. That's a separate arm of the business versus her service. You could always discount her service, instead of giving them a gift card, you take $50 off, the month, or something when they sign. But we'll definitely talk about price increasing too as well. Anyone else struggling with price increasing or know that they want to or need to price increase?
Yeah, like I need to increase several of my clients, but I have heard that this is not a good time of year to do it because everyone is slow and that you're more likely to retain them as a client if you do it kind of when money's coming in, like regularly, where they're like, okay, no big deal, like don't worry about it. Than now when almost no money is coming in. So that's what I'm like waiting, but then I'm like, I should have increased them like 6 months ago, but I was still, like nervous about it or something. So now I'm in this catch-22 of like, I really need to increase them. Like, as my husband says, like, you're doing way too much work for how little you're being paid. I'm like, yes, agreed. So.
Okay. So boundaries there too. Cool. Megan, when's the last time you price increased? Do you price increase? You're like, no. The price stays.
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, I've increased my hourly rate, my overall prices and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been a while.
So let's just talk about it. Let's just talk about, when do you price increase? Should you not price increase? All of those things. I know, I typically price increase. Well, unless I need to sooner. So, I have gotten very specific on my engagement letters. So in the case of the retail store, my engagement letter would say, this many transactions. I don't factor in the number of transactions Square actually does. That's not included in my price because I treat Square as one journal entry that I'm doing. So I factor that as a merchant account, so that's factored in separately to my quote and not in the number of transactions. So I'm looking at the number of transactions I physically have to code there. So if they grew just in Square, that shouldn't really change my quote significantly. Unless they also got a loan through Square or something like that. So so there's that. If you guys wouldn't, Megan, can you do some muting? I'm getting
Yeah.
distracted, I'm sorry.
There we go.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Just a
no
lot of
problem.
background, I'm like, girl over here. So that's something to factor. So once you have your price structure set, and it sounds like Donna, we can work with you on your pricing for sure, and we'll talk at the end. But once you have your pricing set, when do you price increase? So I try to price increase when something has significantly changed. So if my engagement letter says we're doing 5 bank accounts, this many transactions, and 6 months later, you now tell me you have 10, and I literally had this happen, guys, I'm seeing secret bank accounts, and the client's hiding bank accounts from me, like actually hiding bank accounts. Like I'm seeing transfers. Oh, no, we never use that one. We never use that one. I'm like, but it still needs to be on the financials. So that's something. So I did price increase for that. And that was as simple as, you can use this template that I'll share in a little bit, but, hey, it looks like you have increased in the number of bank accounts that you have and monthly transaction volume. Originally you were here. We just did our quarterly review. Remember, I told you we were going to review your account every quarter to make sure the price was still correct. So we just completed that review. Because of these additional, because of this additional workload, here's the price. So you could do it that way. But if you do it that way, so quarterly, like if you do quarterly reviews, you want to schedule it and be consistent. You don't want 8 months to go by and they've been creeping up and you told them you're going to price increase if they hit a certain threshold. Well, now that was 6 months ago. You're going to have a harder time because now you've been doing that work for 6 months. Right? It's gonna feel funkier to you and to them. They're gonna be like, well, why now? So I would do it as it occurs. Like if you guys know how to do this, let me know. But I know software providers, as soon as you add another user, you're automatically paid. Yesterday, Megan and I had to upgrade a piece of software that we use, right? They charged me $5 right off the bat because it's 5 days before our next bill. Right. So we have to think about our business differently, our business on a scalable level there. So then at the year, say the business hasn't changed much. They're still doing the same volume, right? I just did a 10% price increase on 2 of my clients because we hit the year, and that is right now during, a slow season. Well, someone said it was, it's December, January. So, most people are done spending, for a little bit. So I think that's a little industry specific. This particular industry is pretty stable that they're in, so it didn't matter. But it's the year. We talked about it. They knew it was coming. Their price increase starts next month. So it's 10%, just flat. It's because we're another year. I'm going to increase my price by 10% at least. So, and I'm going to evaluate, has scope creep occurred? In this case, yes and no. The 10% covers it just fine. So, but that's an extra $300 a month. I'll take that. Right. So, and they were happy. I got on call with them yesterday. She was like, oh yeah, I finally, a month later signed the engagement letter. And they both of the owners are like, we love you. Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And they said that several times during the call. The call was just to check in to make sure payroll runs today. I did no work. I showed up pretty much just got to chat with two ladies and get off the call. Like super short, super sweet, didn't need to prepare work, didn't need to do anything extra. So there's that. And they were happy to pay me the raise because, again, when I'm thinking about the clients I want to work with, I want them to be paying employees, right? I want them to be used to. So this has evolved. Like if you heard me 2 years ago, I just needed them to be paying contractors more than me, right? Now it's really nice if they're paying employees because they're used to increasing and giving raises to their employees. So why would they not, be okay with giving me a raise as well? Now I show up, I give value, I talk to them, I stay in good communication. So when the price increase comes, they're like, well, it's going to be harder to replace her. She does all of this. We like her. We work well together. She's on top of it. She communicates. Her team is good, right? Like I have to add that value. I have to make sure the clients are receiving that value. And that doesn't always happen. There are seasons where we're awful at communication, right? Like, the only communication you're getting from me because it's super busy and we're in tax season and 1099 season, you're getting automated reminders that you have questions in the portal from me because I use software for that, right? Like we love keeper.app because it's going to ask you the statements. It's going to ask stuff that we've set up. We spent the year automating it so that in the slow season, I think I'm not communicating with you. You think we haven't skipped a beat, right? So we set up systems to cover us when we're down, right? So we're focused on getting deadlines met. So that's something to consider. How much value, how much goodwill have you poured into that relationship? This is also why I say in the first 90 days, regardless of if you're paying for strategy sessions or not. So I don't meet with my clients monthly. But in the first 90 days, if we have a question that we're not able to communicate with you over chat, over email, Keeper is what I'm referring to. So if there's something more going on than we can easily ask you about in Keeper, I'm going to request a phone call with you because it's my job in the first 90 days to make sure I understand your account, understand the transactions, understand what's going on. And in that process, I'm reassuring you, I got your books, right? I'm reassuring you, our team understands it. I'm reassuring you, I'm asking the questions I need to make sure you have an accurate balance sheet. Most often I get financials from bookkeepers who don't have accurate balance sheets. They don't even know why I'm asking all of a sudden for this loan document that they haven't reconciled in 2 years. Oh wait, they no longer have, right? But it's still on the balance sheet. So if they go to get a loan, that's going to count as a liability, but it's not a liability anymore. And it's going to be a little funky and they're going to be like, what? Or the bank's not going to trust the financials because they're like, we know that you paid this loan off 2 years ago. How can I trust that, everything else is right? We're going to send you now to go get an audit done or this reviewed by the CPA, which is going to cost more money. So we can save them money, right? And I think all of this is communication with the client. How are we communicating? I did another price increase a few months ago, back in September. So he renewed, his year is up, every August is when his engagement letter. I've never price increased this guy. And arguably I really don't need to. His transactions, like his pricing is his pricing. Like I could increase him just for the sheer fact that he's been with me. But there's always been something funky. So here's to Crystal, you mentioned earlier, unique situations. Here's a unique situation. So for unique to him reasons, I have never physically increased his price. Year one, he had gone over, he goes to Europe every summer. So he was gone in Europe, stopped paying me. So I had to stop doing the books because I wasn't getting paid. Well, he came back and, I'm like, hey, can you catch up the payments and I'll get up, I'll catch up. But he was really annoyed his books were behind. And he's like, what happened? And I'm like, I've been messaging you. you haven't paid me, like I can't do the work. So he was really frustrated. So, then turn around, I wasn't going to price increase him that month, right? But over the past year I started giving communication. I accidentally led him, I guess, to believe that we were now doing a monthly call every month. And I let it go because I'm like, it's fine. But we had some shift in our team, and I don't want to do monthly calls. It's not in his engagement letter. So when we went and did the price increase this year, instead of increasing him, I took away the monthly call and said, this is actually not a part of your engagement. We can add it. And it left his price the same and took away the call. So now he, if he wants a call, he's paying for the call. So that was, and that's not, I mean, 2 months in, he's like, I need a call again. So that's still a little, not fantastic, but also with this particular client, if it's a deal breaker that we have a monthly call, I'm okay with letting him go. Because on the call, like, it's not just like he's asking for tax advice, he's asking for CFO analysis that I'm not engaged to do with him. And so I don't prepare those. And then he asked them, like, there's some unique situation with this particular client. But in general, he's a good client. However, he also has an attitude. And I'm not, my patience with clients with attitude, Megan out, you're nodding. My patience with clients with attitude and sass is 0. Like, it has plummeted. Okay, it's maybe like 5% because I'll slightly deal with it because I haven't fired him, right? So I'll slightly deal with it. But last year he had an attitude with me, and I almost let him go. But it was super busy last fall with, I had a couple of clients on board, and I just let it go. You might be having a bad day. Just don't do it again. He kind of had an attitude a couple months ago, and I'm like, keep the attitude at bay or I'm letting you go. Like, right? Like, I don't know, Megan. I don't know if it's just the longer you're in business, the less you have like patience for that, or like you understand like
What?
you're worth being respected. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. And you realize that there are more clients out there, that you can have clients that are better fits because you've seen there are ones that don't always have attitudes and just all the things. Because there's been a few times where it's like on a discovery call or whatever, I'm like, I don't know if this is gonna be a good fit, but it's like I really need the money, so I'm signing this client anyway, and it ends up like, okay, it doesn't work out at all. But yeah, like the longer now, I'm 4.5 years into business, and if I'm on a discovery call and I feel that way, like I'm not even gonna entertain that at all, but yeah, in the beginning of my business, so I would have, I did. I've been there. So yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. You realize you don't have to deal with those clients. There are more people out there. When in the beginning of your business, or even sometimes if you've lost clients and you're desperate for the income or whatever the case is, like you're in that situation and you're like, whatever I have to do, I'm gonna do, and then you realize you don't have to later. So yeah, definitely been there.
Because even I think what I, learned, I think there was a period where I did lose a couple of clients. Mainly because I lost one client that had like 4 businesses. He transitioned to like, they were buying it, they transitioned on, right? So he took 4 businesses. That was like $2,500 a month between the 4. And while that was a hit, like I mean, 2,500 of an income is significant, but it also took a lot of workload off the plate, right? 4 businesses.
Right.
Lots of communication with those businesses. It was also kind of like oh, those are gone. Cool. And then because I didn't go into panic mode of I need to replace this income, I did more than replace that income with better clients, actually. And not necessarily that the client did bring on an owner that we didn't get along with. She was always kind of demeaning, actually. So it was kind of like, oh, she's gone. Okay. the male owner that we had been working with for years before that was fine. So I think there became a personality clash with one of my contractors and her. Okay, Crystal just asked a good question. So when, we replaced him, it was like, oh, okay. It was kind of we didn't realize the thorn that had kind of got bred. I feel like it would be so hard to respectfully say it's not a good fit. I wouldn't know how to word it. I would feel so bad, but then I'd feel so much better after getting off the phone. I think that is as simple as, so, okay, let's talk this through. Crystal, do you want to unmute? Let's talk this one through. I think if you're able to unmute. So how do your discovery calls go? Like, tell me about your discovery call process. So do they just book a call with you and schedule a discovery call? Is that on Zoom or is it a phone call?
I kind of am just open to, whatever they're open to. I kind of do try to get it to be a Zoom call just because I feel it probably has a better chance of closing if seeing me and things like that. But yeah, I haven't really had many bad people that I have talked to, but there's this one really rude guy, and he was like, oh yeah, well, I only use this and you'd have to use that too. And yeah, I would need someone in a few months and I don't like this and I don't like that. And I was just like, whoa. And so I just did not, he wasn't ready. And so I was just so glad. And I did not call him back. Yes, I did not want to deal with that attitude. So I just couldn't imagine if someone like was ready and they were just like, super, super rude like that, how this guy was, But I didn't mean to
So I mean,
derail
in
you.
essence, you told him, yeah, no. So in essence, you told him you weren't a good fit by not calling him back. So you could just ghost someone. I don't think that's the best way to go about it. You could just ghost someone. I would rather send an email saying, hey, after reviewing the information you've provided, your QuickBooks file or whatever, we are not a good fit for you. And
That's a good idea. And then you don't have to be talking to them when you say it.
No, you could just send them an email. If they happen to call, hey, I'm checking in on the quote or whatever. You can say, hey, I was going to send you an email this afternoon. I've been hung up in meetings all day, whatever the true story is, right? Or as true as you can. I'm not encouraging you to lie here, by any means. So, hey, this is my situation typically though. I've been hung up in meetings all day. I was going to send you an email this afternoon. I did get a chance to review your books and I reviewed the notes from the call. At this moment, we're not a good fit to take you on. Here's, and sometimes, you can go to our group or, we have squad groups in the paid group. So you can go to the group and say, hey, I've got a client. This is the situation. Does anybody want to see if they're a good fit for them? And so you can say, hey, I got a couple of recommendations for you though. Here's what I recommend you do. Or if you would never under the side of heaven give them to someone else, you would say, hey, because sometimes it's just a personality fit. Like you said something slightly wrong. And so they were like, oh, I'm just going to tell you, I don't like this and I don't like this. You remind me of someone in my past that triggered this attitude. So it could just be referring them to someone else, right? It could be as simple as your haircut, right? So like I have long hair, maybe I'll remind them of someone who was, like it could be as simple as that. Like we have to remember it's not always about us. Could be about their trauma, their history. So you can either try to refer them because it might not mean they're a bad fit for someone else in the group. But if you're like, no, I think you're just, not pleasant as a human being. Have you tried looking on Upwork? Have you tried out Bark.com? What about a Garris? Have you tried any of those sites? Those might be good for you. and walk on. Like, you know, like totally just respectfully, because it's still your business. And I think how we communicate in awkward conversations shows value to how we communicate. Because if we have a client that we like and there's a tough conversation to have, we need to get comfortable with having those tough conversations with our client. Like, hey client, your sales tax is off this month. We need to do an amendment, right? We need to be ready to have those conversations if we make a mistake and we need to own up to it. So those are good practice moments. So I think it was a good question, Crystal.
Thanks.
sure.
Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Good. It was a good question. Okay. So then the other thing, so we talked about annually, you can price them annually, or as soon you can be on top of those quarterly reviews, or you can tell them we do it twice a year, 6 months and 12 months, to give yourself an opportunity. I would just commit. Whatever you're going to do, you're going to do it to all the clients across the board. The other thing you can do is, unless something significantly changes to a current client, to leave their prices as is. And maybe just do a 3% to 10% increase every year. I use a software that, prompts me at 10%. So I was like, sure, I'll try 10% this year. And I'm going to do that for all the clients. So, barring unique situations. So, the other thing to do would be, so consider what you're going to do with your current clients. But then I've seen a CPA firm do this really well that I follow, kind of what they're doing with their website. I follow their trends, their articles, their information. Like, there's someone I follow because they're doing a really good job being a leader in the industry. So as I followed them over, I probably started following them 2.5 years ago, pretty early on in my business. You'll see that they price increase all the time. They're always increasing their prices. And I'm like, you're charging that much now for this? Like, but they'll increase their prices like $100 a quarter. I almost look at it and I'm like, I wonder if your price increasing after you hit certain amount of revenue. So, you hit 5,000, you increase your prices. You hit another 5,000, you increase your prices. What it would look like for most people here, though, it would look like you sign a client, you increase your prices on your website. You sign another client at the higher price, you increase the prices on your website. And it's like $25, $50 an increase. And so the next person, because there's an argument, so I'm giving you ideas, right? So I never want to completely tell you what to do, because it needs to be a good fit for you. It needs to be a good option for your personality. It needs to make sense for you, because if you get on with a phone call and you are a client and you're just trying to do what I say, you're going to fumble and it's not going to make sense. You're going to be like, I don't know why I did that. Right. So we want some concrete foundations. We want to know why we're doing something. So I'm going to give you options. So this is an option. Because the argument to this side of increasing prices is, if someone said yes, you're not charging enough. So for instance, I started charging $150 an hour for strategy calls a couple of years ago. I've never increased my rates, but the number of times that people are just wanting a strategy call has increased. So not becoming recurring clients and things like that. I had someone from Upwork just decide that she, instead of wanting us to do the bookkeeping, she decided she wanted to start doing strategy calls. And we were going to work through the bookkeeping together. Guys, that was a nightmare. And I still had to like, hey, client, we can keep doing these, but I have to get in and fix this issue for you. And it's going to cost you this much before we continue these strategy calls. And then she messed it up too. Like, she still didn't get it right in the months coming. So it took a lot of strategy calls to clean up her books. It was 2 hours at a time, missing dinner with my kids. And I don't want to do that. So I've never reached out back to her again. She emailed me in December wanting to do the same thing, guys. I delayed. She emailed me back again. I sent her my calendar. She booked 2 strategy calls 2 weeks back to back and then emailed me asking to move it back 30 minutes because my calendar wouldn't let her schedule for the time she wanted. I turned to Kyle and I was like, I'm not charging enough. So, and then I had another person at the same time schedule 2 strategy sessions back to back. And I'm like, now hear me. This is separate than are done with you one-to-ones that we do here in the coaching program. This is directly tied to my bookkeeping business where I would rather have them as a bookkeeping client and I would rather build it into their monthly package. Does that make sense? So because I would rather be doing something else and I would rather be doing something else with my time instead of me showing up to those calls, I'm not charging enough for them. So I turned to Kyle and I was like, I'm raising the rates. And I think it's gonna be like 250, Megan. I don't know what it is gonna be yet. That was my gut. I was like, you pay me 250 an hour, I'll show up to that. But 150, I'm no longer, I'm like, you want me to miss dinner for 150 bucks? It just didn't hit the same way this year. I was like, okay. And I know, but because of that, I know it's time. They're not, because she's willing to buy so many, and she's not the only one, because it's now been received and it's selling, it's kind of time for me to raise the rates. Does that make sense? Some of you guys are probably like, that sounds great to me. And that's totally okay. Just at the season of life I'm in, my time with my kids, like to take me away from that. And my office hours don't look like normal office hours, right? Like I because my kids are home with me, I don't have 8 to 5 hours, right? Like I have to be really strategic. And so calls are harder. Like I can sneak away and send an email, right? Oh, y'all are playing with Legos? Great. I have 30 minutes, right? Dishes are done. Y'all are playing with Legos. I'm good. I'll go check in, move some stuff forward. And I know I can do that a couple of times a day and keep stuff moving. A strategy call, though, is like a 3-ring circus of, do you have snacks, water? What can I do to entertain you for an hour without me? And please don't let this be the hour of the day that you guys are all going to cut each other's heads off. Not that they're mean, but like, like you're around someone all day long. The kids are like, I need some individual time. And if they haven't had that, like they need some time away from their siblings. We do it too, right? I'm gonna go do the dishes because I'm by myself now. Like,
Right.
but I'm just trying to explain why. For me, I'm trying to give you context so it's not just, you don't want $150. Of course I'll take $150. I just don't want to be the one on the call. Like, because I know I'll make more money if you just give me the bookkeeping. Like it's more profitable, like it makes more sense. I can do it every month and then you would have the bookkeeping. So arguably it's also not in her best interest to keep doing it for so low. Does that make sense? That's another, like last year I was like, this is not in your best interest. I like made her let me give her a quote. And of course she didn't like it. So, now when I started my business though, strategy sessions were completely the opposite though. Guys, hear me. So when I started my business, I would rather, so this is like a recent development. I used to prefer getting on strategy calls instead of doing the bookkeeping. Here's why. I turned on my computer, I got on, answered your questions, turned off my computer, I got paid, I'm done, I'm back to life. There's nothing hanging over my head. So I loved it when I first got started. You're going to tell me, because I would have people pay for like 10 hours or whatever, like just upfront and be like, I need you to solve this problem. Great. I'm not doing the work. I'm showing up to a call. You're paying me for 4 hours back to back. Great. This is great, great income. $600 in a week just for showing up to a call like this. Please. Yes. All day long, every day. But that's not what's going on anymore. And I don't even know how I made it work then. I don't know. But it was better than this season of life. So I think it changes, right? So pricing can change, season changes. I would just develop a methodology to how you're going to price increase. So are you going to price increase the old clients? I have some old clients. I have not price increased ever. I have, but everyone's getting a price increase this year. So everyone's going to get the 10% price increase. All the software went up this year. And like, I need to increase, my contractor, her pay. She hasn't received an increase, in a year and a half. She needs an increase. She hasn't asked me for one. I've given her more work instead right now. But because I know I want people to raise, I want to raise rates on other people, like, because I think you should increase rates at some point. It depends on the client. About a 30-day notice, 30 to 60-day notice. It depends on how frequently I communicate with the client, though. So I have some clients that I never talk to. We communicate via the portal, like I never have a real conversation with them. So it depends on the client. So if I talk to them frequently, it's, oh, hey, by the way, I'm going to send you, the annual engagement letter. If it's the annual engagement letter, I have a template that says, hey, it's been another year. Great working with you. I'm so glad we've had the last year together. Here's our annual renewal. It says something like that, and then goes on, and then the price increases in the engagement letter. So there's in the way I send them, they get like a email kind of from me, like a cover letter. Then they get a service sheet. Then they get the engagement letter. They get like a summary, then engagement letter. So, yeah, it depends. And it depends on when I caught that the engagement letter was like, sometimes I will miss an engagement letter renewal. So it's just as soon as I can. Okay. Because like all of a sudden I'll look up and it's like only 30 days out or 15 days out. And that's pretty short turnaround. So I try to be mindful of that, and I might give them like a month grace. So like they might pay me 2 months at the same rate before it gets increased. It depends on the client. But 30 to 60 days is more than enough time. I like 30. If I can, I try to target 30. If that helps. Okay. We are 15 minutes to Megan. Is there anything I missed on price increasing or anything you wanted to add?
I don't believe, I think that was good.
I'm watching the chat if you guys have any additional questions on price increasing. I do have a template for you ready to go. One thing though with price increasing, so our template, it's so with like a con to price increasing is you may lose clients, right? So when I'm looking at when we're doing the cash flow for bookkeepers and we say, hey, here's all your clients, here's the rates, and we evaluate their pricing, like, are the clients right? Sometimes the first thing we need to do is price increase before we find new clients, is do a price increase, because a lot of times we'll find bookkeepers are doing way too much work for not enough pay, and they've got way too many clients. So if you have 10 clients and you're making $1,300 a month, $1,500 a month, there's something wrong. Right? I mean, not entirely, but like, so if you have 10 clients making $1,500 a month and you're working more than 20 hours a month, there's something wrong. Okay. So in that case, So in that case, we would want to look at the clients and do a price increase, and with grace, let some of them go. Because that's going to reduce the workload, and the clients that really value are going to increase the price. Often what we see is clients will leave, some will stay, and your income will stay the same. Now you're back down to, 10, 15 hours a month, and we can take a deep breath, reset our, nervous system, because we were probably super stressed, give our body some time to recover, give the business time to recover, and we keep going and getting leads again, right? So there is that. Okay, hopefully Donna and Cheryl, that tidbit helped. I think in that situation, we need to be willing to let go of the clients who are underpaying. Another thing, Megan, I think we've encouraged students at times, okay, let's know the clients we want to, here's A, B, C clients. We want to let the C clients go, because, so we'll do this different. Instead of sending a price increase, because sometimes like we just can't, we got bills to pay, right? So we list the C clients out, and we say, these, we're going to replace these. You might have 5 clients at $500. So we're going to go find all the leads we can, and we're going to see if we can replace that client with 1 or 2, those 5 clients with 1 or 2 clients. Now, we're going to start slowly replacing clients, bad clients, and then increasing the income from there. Sometimes it is about stabilizing the business and the workload, like resetting the ship, because the ship is spinning in like a whirlpool. So we want to set it straight, then we can move forward, right? But if you're spinning in circles, like out of control, like you're working too much, so you can't market, we need to get still first so that we can go forward. Okay. Nicole says, do you increase clients every year from when they signed, or all at the same time? I do every year when they signed. One, that's easier for me to focus on, pay attention to, nurture the client. 2, I have seen people do it all at the same time. So like, hey, June, it's June 1st, everyone's raising rates. Chelsea does this well. Chelsea, one of the coaches in the group, I think I've seen her do price increases all at the same time. Like, hey, it's June 1st, prices are going up to this. I don't know if she does that as much now versus like on a client per client basis, but she did underquote some clients early on, and she sent like, I think there was like a couple of times where she sent price increases. She lost clients, increased income. It worked out. And we see that happen all the time. So either way, I don't think it's wrong. My struggle with clients all at the same time is I didn't get the clients all at the same time. So I'm going to have clients, who have only been here 3 months, clients that have been here 18 months. So it's easier for me mentally to do it once a year. Unless, again, like we said earlier, for me, if they had scope creep, so all of a sudden they're bringing me 5 new bank accounts, or all of a sudden, their business is a lot larger, and I need to price increase purely based on the business growth because it's taking us longer to do. That would be the exception to every year. So I also do that for me. I am human and have a risk tolerance as well. I don't want to see half my clients go at the same time. If, like worst case scenario, half of them say, forget you. I'm not in that situation where I think half of my clients would leave if I said hey, we're increasing everyone's price January 1st. But if you were, for some reason, it's a, rough spot in the business, or you're tight financially in the business, there's no margin, right? There's no emergency fund in the business, things like that. I would probably, because of my own risk averseness, do it one at a time. But you could very well, like if it's been 2 years and you haven't price increased, you might do all of those at the same time. And you might not do those that are under a year or under 6 months. You might exclude those. I hope that answers that, Nicole. Okay. Okay, Donna had some questions on quoting, so we can see if we can solve some quoting questions real quick. Cool. And then I'm going to drop the price template in a couple minutes for sure. So you guys can all have that, which you can use. And that's an example from the templates that we have in the course. So yeah, absolutely. Actually, real quick, Donna, before you jump in, Megan, do we have any announcements or anything that we need to make before we jump off after Donna's quote? So watch out for the goals workshop. So every year we do a goals workshop to kind of get focused on, the new year, where we're heading in the business. So that will be coming in the first couple of weeks in January. And then we also have a workshop coming out in January. So do watch for those 2 emails. Register for those. There'll be templates and all, downloads and fun freebies like that always. I think that's it.
Yeah, and the time of this call, we pushed it back an hour. So I think that's it.
Oh,
I'm
and
glad you did. I'm glad you did, because I can't ever make the Thursday calls because I'm at my networking meeting at the crack of dawn. So I'm glad I could make it at this time. So thanks.
Perfect.
feedback. Thank you guys. Okay, Donna, take it away. What's the quote?
Okay, so I have one right, well, two, but one of them right now, it's a brick and mortar gift shop. She's a sole proprietorship. She has one checking account, one credit card, and she uses Square. So Square is pretty much where all the income's coming in through. And she does her taxes, sales tax off the Square reports and takes care of that herself. She does have 2 short-term loans that she has. But the tricky part for me is the fact that she mentioned she had tried to do QuickBooks in the past. And she didn't like it, and it didn't work for her because she couldn't figure out the inventory tracking, because she has about $14,000 in inventory to track. So
How is she tracking it?
yeah, she's tracking all her inventory in there, or a good portion of it, I guess.
But she couldn't
And
figure
so
it out if she is tracking it. Like, that doesn't make sense.
well, now she's just tracking it like on her own through like Google spreadsheets, both her finances and her inventory. So
And-
she'd like it to be done in QuickBooks if possible, but she said she didn't know if it was her struggling, 4 years ago to figure it out or not, or what. But now she just said, this has just become too much for her. She doesn't want to do it on her own anymore. But she also said, I only bring in like $1,100 a month. So it sounds like a lot of work, but she also isn't making much. So this is again where I'm picking up clients that I'm probably going to end up doing more work than what the pay is for. But she's local, and I kind of at this point, because I don't have clients and I'm trying to pick up, I kind of feel like I want to pick up these local clients just for referrals out, just to continue to grow, because they're coming from my other.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. I would recommend getting the inventory sheet from her.
Okay.
And doing like a diagnostic on it. I would ask to see it. along with the QuickBooks file to see, because you might have to blow it all out. So you might want to start new, like if she's not using QuickBooks. Because if there's
Yeah,
inventory,
she's not,
like it might be worth starting a new QuickBooks file. So I would get access to the account or get her to confirm she wants to start a new one and then get access to the inventory sheet. Because until we see that, we don't know. Because 14,000 doesn't tell us if that's 5 items or 14,000 items.
okay, all right. Yeah, she is not using QuickBooks, so she knows we would need to do that. And she knows that I would have to get her Plus to even try to do inventory tracking. So she knows that and is aware of that. I just, yeah, I
we
wasn't
need to
sure.
know, how do you, then you would need to know, how do you know if something's sold? Like, is everything going through Square? Because if so, then I think Square does
Yes.
inventory. So that might be a one
Everything is,
once you get the information, and then we could dive in and get the quote together. You might also be able to take care of that on the quoting call as well.
okay. Yeah, she definitely does everything through Square.
Okay, so then inventory should be able to be tracked through Square.
Okay, so I shouldn't have to do it in QuickBooks then.
So you'll want access to Square, the Excel sheet, and QuickBooks. And this is why people charge for a diagnostic review, because now you're doing work to investigate how to do it. So I would charge her for this. Because you kind of need to know how she's set up to know how to go forward. I just don't know what information she truly has. And why is it too, like, if it's too difficult for her to keep up with, like, how long is she spending on it a month? Like, how long is it going to take you? Because I immediately went to like, okay, she's probably going to be an $800 to $1,200 client, but then you told me she's making $1,500 a month. So I don't know if there's a way I could do that.
Okay. All right. And what day do we have our quoting calls?
So the quoting call is every Monday.
Okay.
And
I
it's
know
a
she wanted,
standalone thing too, for sure. So if Chelsea right now does those calls.
okay. Yeah, I didn't see it listed in the group thing on events. That's why I was wondering.
Which group are you looking at?
I was looking at the moms.
Yeah, so it's in the support group, or it's a standalone group, and so there's not an event in moms. You would get access. So it's still a paid, but it's like $47 a month. Or like a one-time $447, I think, something like that. Or once you get the information, you can post in the moms group.
Okay, so I'll find out more about her inventory because that's just that's pretty much the main thing then is her inventory. If she's going to continue to inventory herself through Square, then that really makes a big difference on what I could quote her because that's where my struggle was too.
Yeah, I need some more information on like how is she using Square? Because if people are purchasing goods, then the inventory is probably already in Square.
Okay. All right, perfect. And then my other one is a little confusing as well. She's got, and I posted this one, but I know sometimes it's easier to talk because there's so much and I don't know what I'm looking for. But she does not use QuickBooks, or she was using QuickBooks Desktop. She doesn't have access. She said she doesn't even know how to get onto it at all. But her previous bookkeeper had it. Then she turned the file over to her CPA. She doesn't know what her CPA is doing with it other than she pays her to take care of everything, but knows that the CPA said it'd be better to have a bookkeeper do the books. So she has a Airbnb carriage. She has a little carriage house on her property that she Airbnbs out. And all payments, all whatever, everything's going through Airbnb. And it just direct deposits into her account. Then she has a seasonal bike camp in the summer where people rent bikes and she does that kind of stuff or buys bikes from her. That's a sole proprietor. And then she herself is a property manager for 2 properties, where she invoices herself and bills out to her clients. Everything, all 3 of those is a sole proprietorship. Her CPA said that she could get a version of QuickBooks that allows her to be able to classify each of those. So I know she's talking about probably the plus, where at least the balance sheet would be divided into the 3, because we'd be class tracking or whatever through the 3 different.
The P&L would
Yeah.
be, yeah.
Yeah,
And
so, but
they're
I
not,
don't know again.
right? So they're
Uh,
not LLCs. Those 3 separate things are
No.
not, right?
None of them are an LLC at all. None of them have their own EIN. She does everything through her social. Everything is a sole proprietor. And she only has 1 checking account per each account. So she was good about doing that each one does have their own checking. So I know who it would.
Quote based on, so class tracking, you're gonna add class tracking. You're gonna quote for the number of checking accounts, savings accounts, credit cards, and then you're gonna do the transactions.
Okay, how many transactions, right?
Yeah. So
And see,
actually,
she's only,
so you can get bank statements for each of those accounts and count those for the last 3 months or so.
okay, so I should ask for the bank statements, because I asked her personally how many transactions, and she's like, oh, about 30.
I
But
would
you
ask
want me
for
to see the bank?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you can quote
Okay.
from there like normal. So you're gonna add class tracking, quote for the bank accounts, quote for the transactions. And then anything else she has. But I think this is probably the same one we talked about. So she doesn't have sales tax or things like that. So you're good.
Okay, and so she does also 1 credit card, though, that is used for all 3. Is that a problem?
Nope. You'll just
No.
track it.
Okay, all right, perfect. So we don't have to do anything with credit cards. Okay, sweet. All right, I will, perfect. I'll ask for their statements just to verify in the inventory tracking on the other one, inventory sheet, just to see what she's doing and how. And then post that information on the, because I already posted, but update my post with that information so I can get a better idea.
Yeah, and you can do a new post in the
Okay.
moms group. If we can respond, we will. And other people will chime in too, for sure. So,
Okay.
and
sounds
then if you do the quoting club, you would tag it hashtag quoting club so that we see it and Chelsea can respond or I'll respond for sure. So we stay on top of that hashtag a little bit better because it stands out for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll get you there. Congrats on the leads. And then for
Well, I
the
hope so.
referral, I would just send a note. Thank you so much for the referral, and then do the price increase separate. Or take her to coffee. You said she's local, right?
Yeah, she's local. Yeah.
Take her to coffee. Take her to coffee. And bring it
Okay. And do you think that $50 is too much of a price increase? Because you said 10%. Should I just start her with 10% or just do the 50 up to 100? I think she'd be okay with it, but I'm just.
I would at least do the 100.
Okay.
How many transactions? What all are you doing?
It's super basic. She's doing the same. Everything pretty much comes through Square. And then she does purchase her cost of goods, but I mean, she's so good. Everything
So it takes
truly
you like
coming
an hour
through.
to do
It's
or
awesome.
less. It
An
takes you an
hour
hour.
max.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
that's to do everything. I have to do transactions. That's to reconcile at the end of the month. That's like, it's super
Okay.
simple and easy for me.
I honestly think just start with 100 and then next year you can do, 5% every year.
Okay.
After that.
Okay.
3 to 10%, whatever you set as your annual increase.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Guys, I dropped the price increase template in the chat. I hope this is helpful.
There it goes. Thank you.
So make sure you download that because that will go away. So we'll stay on for a few minutes so you guys can grab that. I hope this was helpful on price increasing and just thinking through your firm policies the more you can automate these things, so set a reminder, hey, this client's due for a price increase, or, you know, any of those things, you're going to free up your time to do more marketing or free up your time to go have coffee with a friend. I know we're going to talk more about this, automation, all of those things, in the workshop that we're doing soon. So be sure to catch that. But it was really nice to see you guys. If you haven't gotten the download, feel free to grab that. And then when Megan cuts us off, Megan cuts us off. So, yeah. Hopefully everyone's Christmases was good. Happy New Year, Debbie. You're welcome, Nicole. You're welcome, Cheryl.
Yeah, it probably is because you just hopped on.
Yeah. Okay. And for those of you that have the Bookkeeper Blueprint course, this template is in the Bookkeeper Blueprint course, and it is very similar to the other templates that we have. So we have, you know, onboarding templates, proposal follow-up templates, quarterly tax payment reminders, diagnostic review emails. So these are just the emails. So we have a lot of other checklists. If you're cold emailing prospects, we have a template for that. We have a monthly statement request email, this pricing template email, a welcome email, a kickoff call email, anniversary email. So for your anniversary, things like that, asking for a review from a client. So if you're trying to grow your reviews, a monthly bill reminder, check-in call, asking clients for referrals. A lot of you guys grow from referrals, scheduling a kickoff call, sending the annual report. So everyone's about to send annual reports out, requesting additional documents, sending an ask my client or accountant report, so uncategorized transactions, and then reaching out to CPA firms. So if you're doing marketing that way. So those are just some of the emails. And then, yeah, I did not read all of the emails. There's a lot more emails. And then there's a ton more checklists in the resource section. So that is a super valuable section there. You're welcome, at least for the reminder. So much there, especially at going into the new year. If you're looking to streamline something, Elise, what can we automate? Get off your plate. Okay, thank you guys for coming. I think that's it, Megan. I got nothing.
All right. Have an awesome
Any questions?
weekend.
Bye, guys.
Bye.